As a history major and historic preservationist, connections to the past through family, community, culture, and place are important factors in my life and work. This past year, after being accepted into the Snorri Program, I jumped at the chance to learn more about Iceland and my Icelandic heritage. While I am still reflecting on my 5 weeks in Iceland, I hope this video creates an insightful look into what being a Snorri participant looks like and how our ties to the past carry on through the lives of the descendants of Icelanders like me. Growing up with a name like Inga Gudmundsson, it was easy to feel connected to my Icelandicness. As an adult, my interests into my Icelandic ancestry have led me to sort through family photos, research online databases, and really consume anything and everything that I could find that connected me to Iceland. But while I knew I was Icelandic, I had never heard until recently the term Vestur Icelandinger, or Western Icelanders. Used for the descendants of Icelanders who left for North America, this term fascinated me during my time in Iceland, having used it frequently to explain to various Icelanders why I was in Iceland and what the Snorri Program was. After spending 5 weeks with the 2024 Snorri group, I believe there is truly no better experience to meet and learn with other Western Icelanders. In my opinion, the 6 Americans and 9 Canadian Western Icelanders that participated in Snorri this year were an exceptional group. Whether attempting to order ice cream in Icelandic or hiking up a waterfall in the West Fjords, our time in Iceland was spent asking questions, learning about each other, and really ingratiating ourselves into Icelandic culture. While in Iceland, I continued to research my Icelandic family history. A major part of that research centered around my grandfather, Ivar Gudmundsson. Born in Reykjavik in 1912, Ivar was a journalist, writer, and diplomat. While sifting through documents with my half-cousin Helma, I found a draft of a speech Ivar wrote in the 1970s. At the time, Ivar was Consul General of Iceland in New York, and he was asked to come to Winnipeg and give this speech. The Snorri program always ends with the final presentations that are presented by the Snorri participants on the last night in Iceland. Since Ivar's speech focused on the perspective of Western Icelanders, I knew this speech would be perfect for my presentation, and I was struck by the relevance it had to my current Snorri experience, specifically to understanding what my place is as a Western Icelander living in the United States and interested in my Icelandic ancestry. Early in his speech, Ivar shared his own recollections of what he thought of Western Icelanders as a young Icelandic boy growing up in Reykjavik in the first 2 decades of the 20th century. He said, "When I say that I found the Western Icelanders who came to Iceland kind of strange, it might have been my own shyness. America was so far away, and we had such peculiar ideas about this foreign land. Until this time, the Western Icelanders had, in my mind, been more of a legend than a reality, somewhat like out-of-a-storybook characters, like the Iceland-Brazil travelers whom I had read about as a young boy." He went on to say, "I remember that it was sort of a status symbol among us youngsters in Reykjavik to be able to say that we had an uncle, an aunt, or even a distant cousin in America. A relative anywhere in America was enough to be somebody." Previously, it was believed in Iceland that they who left for America to settle there would never come back. This was true for most. When I left for a post at the United Nations in 1951, my mother bid farewell with these words, "I could just as well follow you to your grave. Those who go to America never return. America has taken away all of our best men from us." Even though most of the first generation of Icelandic Americans and Canadians might not have traveled back home to Iceland, the past 25 years of Snorri participants are proof that we Western Icelanders do come back. While the language might not be spoken anymore in North America, other parts of Icelandic culture are alive in America and Canada. Foodways, holidays, storytelling, and various other aspects of our Icelandic heritage are apparent in our generation of Western Icelanders. After finishing my 5 weeks in Iceland, now as a Snorri alum, I believe that is evident in the conversations I had with host families, shopkeepers, and random Icelanders in my travels that just like my grandfather a century ago, Icelanders still hold a sort of reverence for us Western Icelanders. I will end this video as I ended my presentation with words of advice. For all the Western Icelanders out there, remain prideful in your ancestry, share your heritage, and continue to root yourselves into Icelandic culture and place. While we might not all speak Icelandic, as my grandfather said, the language is important. However, love and loyalty needs no special language. It is most important what is in the heart, not what is on the tongue.